the Cyclops is in the building. This is Del K. Brereton, and this is The Real Spiel. Shiloh Institute, stand up. To Dr. David Israel, my Hebrew mentor. I'm going to get back with you. I'm still studying my letters. And to all who've come to hear the words of this simple Trinity man, welcome to my live drive on The Real Spiel. To all those who are suffering right now, who have broken hearts, feel that everything is just too much for them, you're going through an emotional situation, a financial, emotional, mental psychosis. Maybe you have cancer, your body is failing you, and all hope is lost. I want to let you know the devil is a liar. So I want to say to you, the devil is a liar. Today, let it be the platform that you leap from into your next level of blessing. Can I just say it like that? Good morning to you, good morning to you, good morning to you. Listen, so I wanted to talk to you today because I came for you women yesterday. Yes, I did. I came for y'all yesterday because y'all needed to become full. And so today I got to talk to the brothers. I talked to the brothers. Ladies were like, I would like you to hold these men accountable. And I'm gonna do my best, but I'm gonna speak honestly from the perspective that you know my little brain's got. What manner of man is this? That's the title of this. And for those who don't know, that phrase comes from some gentlemen who were affiliated with a very incredible man. And this man, was so different. That he had the capacity to tell even the winds, the waves, the seas, be quiet. And as these individuals who were following him saw what he did, they asked the question, what manner of man is this? I believe that this is the place that every man wants to find himself in the eyes of the woman and men, but we're not talking like that. But let's deal with the context of this relationship scenario that we are talking about for the last 2 days. This so-called relationship, seminar we are having here. That man wants the woman to look at him and say, what manner of man is this? Ooh, this one here, God, this one's different. Mama, I met me a man. There was a woman standing in Samaria waiting for people to clear away from the well so that she could go and pull water. She had a kind of a speckled reputation, so she didn't want to really hang around the other young ladies. And she met, again, the same gentleman. And the interaction that she had with him caused her to run back to her village and say, I met a man. I met a man who told me everything about I met a man. So how do we now deal with manhood in its current phase, in its current status quo? It would be easy for me to start to dissect manhood into racial dissections. I don't want to do that today. I want to speak to the holistic nature of men out of every culture, ethnicity. It's hard to do that because we have different species of men. But the man type, regardless of creed or culture, the good ones remain relatively specific. And the bad ones do too. I am not necessarily qualified to call myself a good man. don't think so. I don't think I'm qualified to call myself a good man. I'm kind of a man who's trying to be a good man, and I'll explain why that is. I've made some really bad mistakes in my manhood. I've fumbled the ball a lot, and most of my fumbles, which is why I have to hold myself to such a high standard, did not come out of ignorance. Most of my fumbles were done with the knowledge that I was fumbling at the time. It's one thing to drop the ball. It's another thing to just be like, eh. And so I'm not speaking to you from a place where I feel that I am the greatest man in the world, and therefore it is my job to tell you how to be a great man. I'm not speaking from that place whatsoever. I'm speaking probably from the opposite place. From the place where it's like, I've made so many fantastic blunders that I can speak from the experiential university PhD of blunderology. And I can say to you, man, don't do it like this. Don't do it like this. So let's get going from the going. My biggest issue with manhood begins with fatherhood. My issue with manhood truly begins with fatherhood. Fatherhood is just the most important. It's just the most important institution in the world, for a man especially, for a young girl too, but for a man especially, fatherhood is such an important thing. The problem is also that there is no fatherhood courses. And Fatherhood 101
Follow the road
is
for 800 meters.
Simply being present. Cancel voice instructions.
Voice instructions deactivated.
Yeah, Fatherhood 101 is simply you being present. That's fatherhood number one. And for me, I didn't have that. So I had to develop a strategy in order to become mentored to be a man, because you're not born a man, you're born a male. And then the mentorship that brings you there that determines the species of man that you are. So I try to adopt various father types that I gleaned to build my manhood from, until I reached to an age where I could be like, nah, I can take this the rest of the way myself. Many preachers know how to do this, because when you first start preaching, you don't have your own voice. You got a bunch of your favorite preachers, and you start preaching like them until you find your own voice. Some guys never find their own voice. Some guys be preaching like Noel Jones for the rest of their doggone life. Their whole ministry is they have a copycat ministry that they sound like somebody else. Lord have mercy, I'm going the wrong way. I should be going the other way. I'm gonna turn my car around. Some guys have that scenario where that's not your sermon. Didn't T.D. Jakes preach that? And manhood is like that. Manhood is like you are taking aspects of another man and you're applying it to yourself and say, yeah, I like this. It's like armor. It could be sense of humor. It could be style. It could be demeanor. But you're building your manhood based on the men around you a lot of times. Manhood goes from fatherhood to also friends. And what kind of friends you put around you, or allowed to be around you, that affects you. Even if you know you're better than those clowns that are around you, it still affects you. At the end of the day, you come out as a finished product of manhood, and your finished product of manhood is the product that you now try to engage the world with. Your manhood approach to life, when you start trying to get a job, When you start trying to put yourself in a position to be somebody's husband, when you start taking care of children, you've actually said, this is the moment I'm taking my manhood gifts, my manhood skills that I built, and I'm going to now engage the world with them. And for me, that was at 19 years old. Right? Let me see what y'all got to say. I had a submissive woman, like you said in your, hold on, let me read that. I'm gonna read that properly because I want to read that. I'm not going to forget my thought. I know exactly where I am. I just want to read that because I want to piggyback with that because that's from yesterday. All right, let me see what this brother's got to say. Let me see what you got to say here. I had a submissive woman, like you said in your last live, and she left me and tried to get her, and I tried to get her back, and she told me to leave her alone, man. Good morning, Brother Dell. Hope you have a blessed, wonderful day. All praise to the Most High. Blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about this submissive woman thing. The brother is thrown out there. My manhood approach started at 19. And therefore, I took on the world at 19 years old. I got married at 19 years old. I was going to university at 19 years old. And at 22 years old, I had a full family, full wife, everything, right? And the woman that I found was relatively submissive. And my manhood affected her submissiveness, just to speak to the brother's point. And the issues in my manhood affected how she responded to me. And I remember one time when she said to me something very powerful, because we were having problems, and she told me to get out of the house, move out of the house. You know, women will tell you that every now and then, brother. I need some space from you. I need you to move out. I said, oh, okay, you need me to move out. Well, the mistake she made is she told me to move out in the summertime. I was like, you want me to move out in the summertime in Toronto? Are you sure? And, you know, I moved out in the summertime. We were effectively separated. And I went and I had a great, fantastic summer. And then during the course of that summer, the mistake of, how old was I by this time? I was probably 23 years old. Of this young man was that this woman wanted you to pursue her, even though she was telling you she needed space. She wanted you to speak to the concerns that she had, which were minor at the time. They were just minor insecurities. Just minor. She was a young wife, I was a young husband. But instead, I said, no, I'm gonna take this time to go on a whole man break. I'm gonna live my best life. And it deteriorated the relationship. She told me this. Wow. You have no idea what you've just done to me. When she said that, I was like, oh. And it was true. She changed. She switched. She switched up fast. She was no longer my submissive girl. She now switched into a seeker mode. I'm out here. I'm in these streets. I'm going to go out here and do my thing. He's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. Brother, the breakup with that submissive woman that you had is always 99% plus one our fault. It is our fault. This is something that is powerful, and I don't know if you can hail it, if you can handle it. Men build women. You build your wife. The woman that you have in your life, your manhood is building her. Where do I get that from? There's an old story, an old book, where Yahweh, God of the book, puts a man to sleep and takes out of that man a rib and builds a woman out of the rib of the man. So the metaphor is that the woman is built out of the ingredients that is in the man. You are building your wife with your words. You're building her with your sensitivity. You're building her with your neglect. You're building her with your abuse. And this is the thing that upsets me as a man. But I have to live with it, is the fact that most women, they don't have very high standards when it comes to men. Only the modern women do. I'm getting to you modern women in a minute. But most women actually don't have that high a level of standards for a man. That means all of you frogs, yeah, we can kiss you, you're never going to turn into a prince. All of you frogs has a beauty queen waiting to give you a chance. All of you do. Yes, all of you frog princes have a beautiful woman that is waiting to give you a chance. It bothers the heck out of me, because sometimes I pick up a baddie and she's got a bunch of frogs in her history. I'm like, how the heck did this frog get into your life? And now I've got to deal with the frog, and the frog's got a couple of children with the woman. I don't want to go there, but it's true. Most women will give you frogs a chance. That's right. And us Gorilla Kings, when we come in here and we're like, hey, I'm the Gorilla King. How the heck did you let this frog? I thought I was your type. She'll tell you, I just felt that he would be a good father. I felt he would take care of me. I felt. And the problem is, you broke that woman who was giving your frog behind a chance. And now after you broke her and she's out on the street and you hippity hoppity yourself back and say, Ribbit, get back in my life. She's like, frog, I don't want you, frog. You just a frog. I was giving you a chance. I was trying to kiss you and make you into a prince. So a lot of times we break those women and you can't get them back. Don't try to get that girl back. You can't get her back. Once that woman sees the frog in you, you can't get her back. You've got to go now, hippity hoppity yourself to another woman who looks at you and says, I see the prince in you, froggy. And you got a chance with her. But some things are just meant, unfortunately, to be laid aside and say, I'm sorry, I broke you. And I know I can't get you back. But I digress. Let me go back to this. Manhood now. Your manhood, now that you've taken your manhood out into the street, you've tried your manhood on, you've done your best with your manhood, you're trying to do your thing. Manhood has an incredible responsibility. Because as I just said in my last analogy, that the man, the individual, creates his woman, he creates his wife. The culture of men also creates the women culture around us. This is the one part where I'm going to jump into ethnic specificities just to hammer this point home. We've done a great disservice to black women in the urban Western community, because we have created our own folklore, meaning our music, our culture, and we have reclassified what a good woman is. When I was growing up, a good woman wasn't a stripper. A good woman wasn't a city girl. That wasn't what a good woman is. But now we have reclassified that. And now a good woman, in the eyes of social media culture, pop culture, rap culture, urban culture, a good woman is a promiscuous woman. She's a woman who's had experiences with other men by the time she's gotten to you. So she knows how to please you because she's now been tested, run through by the homies. And now by the time you get her, she's already, she already knows what to do. Back in the day, it's like, oh, how did you know that? Who taught you how to do that? What in the hell? Now it's like, boy, my girl can do this. How is those redeemable qualities? We have built our women out of the brokenness of our manhood. And we have also built a culture of women. This is not about women, this is about men. It's about the responsibility and culpability of manhood. We have built a community of women that, for the most part, we do not accept them holding us responsible to anything. So let's get into that. We have this offshoot that contradicts my last point that I referred to as the modern woman. And the modern woman, she isn't like the young ladies I was describing. She has incredible standards. And she is also and I would call it a healthy overreaction to a broken culture. She has said, you know what? I refuse to evaluate myself by the substandards of broken manhood. I am not a bitch. I am not a HOE. I am not an individual who you're just going to be able to pick up just like that. I'm going to hold my standards high, and I'm going to make sure that I have an incredible checklist just to allow you to have access to me. Now, the problem with that is that she has now transformed her virtue into something that is purchasable. And instead of now, she's not looking for frogs. She's looking for CEOs. She's looking for individuals who have the capacity to pay to play. And she figures that if it doesn't matter what he looks like, because again, most women don't care what you look like. I know it hurts. If you're a good looking guy, it's like, are you serious? No, they don't. Most women don't really care what you look like. I mean, if you're an attractive man, you're going to definitely get more attention. But most women, 85% of women, do not care what you look like. I know it hurts. What am I doing all these weights for? Why am I 6'7", 275 pounds, a chocolate man, and any frog can get my chick? It's terrible. I know it's horrible. I don't like it, but it's true. Most women don't care what you look like. They care what man speech you can give them to frame the dreams and aspirations of what they want in their life. If you can speak that, demonstrate that, show that, they will hang out with you. And so if she was doing it with the frog, why don't, instead of looking for frogs, why not just do it with CEOs? And that reaction is again men's fault. It is our fault. We have created that in the urban cultures. Now, let's get out of the urban culture now, because a lot of times we get so caught up with urban culture that we think that what's taking place in the West is what's taking place everywhere, and it's absolutely not. It's just not. And to be honest with you, if I was to just be fair, Western men are failing when it comes to being proper men in the world. Western men are failing. They're drastically failing when it comes to being proper men in the world. Western white men, Western black man, Western Latino man, Western Asian man, you're failing. You all are failing. Your Western lifestyle, mentality, approach to women in general is failing. When you now adopt an Eastern mentality, and when I say Eastern, I refer to Africa, I refer to India, I refer to the Middle East, I refer to cultures that have held on to moral virtues that the West has completely let go of. Those men are different. Watch this, their marriage rituals are different. Their courtship rituals are different. The quality of what a woman gets in that man is extremely different. Extremely different. And therefore, we need to take a look and see what manhood looks like over there. I remember being in Ghana, and they had a celebration in church for a couple. Apparently they were engaged for 6 years, and I felt that was a ridiculous celebration. It was like, yes, they're finally getting married after being engaged for 6 years. I was like, what are we celebrating this for? Like, this brother should have pulled the trigger a long time ago. And so I went to one of the female ministers and I said, explain this to me. Why are we celebrating this guy who's taken 6 years to pull the trigger and finally marry this girl? Why is that celebratory? She says, oh, you don't understand. It took him 6 years to pay the bride price. I was like, okay. So you're telling me that him just wanting to marry her just like that? No. You had to demonstrate that you were in a position to compensate the family to the value of what this woman is. And you were going to work diligently until you could acquire this woman. Now you say, well, isn't that merchandising? No, it's not the same merchandising, because this money is not about money. It is about commitment to be a provider. It is a commitment to be a responsible man and to do what the culture causes you to do, to pay the bride price, because a woman in Eastern culture is extremely valuable. And therefore, the bride price that's paid to her father is to demonstrate that you are going to take care of my child. And it is the responsibility of the father to make sure that he holds that man accountable to the bride price. It's not just paying the woman some money so she can go do her thing. And I said, that's an incredible scenario. Because first of all, what it does for men, it causes you to say, I can't just go grab any chick willy-nilly. I have to make my mind up that I actually really want this woman. If you're paying off a woman 6 years like you're paying off a doggone Mercedes-Benz, you got to really want that car, baby. You got to really want that woman. 6 years? Western men. Show of hands. How many of you are going to put a woman on a 6-year installment program to say that you want to marry her? 6 years? 6 years? That's a long time. So why is that man different? That man has a level of resolve, a level of, I've made up my mind. There's a young lady yesterday, talked about the commitment phobia of men. When you're paying a bride price, oh, if you had a phobia, it's disappeared. You are implementing commitment habits. To say nope, building a family, building a foundation, making sure I can provide, making sure I can keep a steady job, making sure I'm a responsible member of society. I'm not going to do drugs because I might go to jail. I might lose my wife. I'm not going to be a criminal. I'm not going to be inconsistent. I'm not going to have 2 chicks over here because I can't afford to take you out, girl, because I got to pay this bride price. And so it's building a different nature in a man. And now it goes back to that Western guy, and it shows us what we don't have. I don't have the patience to wait for a woman for 6 years. I don't. But I have adopted some of that since I've come back from Africa. And this is what I've adopted. And people who've been speaking to me heard me say this, and I believe it to be true. I believe a man, it takes him 3 years, not 6. 6 is a long time. It takes you 3 years to know a woman, to invest in a woman, to court a woman, to know if that woman's going to be your wife. It takes you 3 years to basically demonstrate to your own self, I am the kind of man that now is ready to be a husband to this woman. And ladies, I'm not talking about 3 years, you live with him for 3 years. And after you've lived with him for 3 years, then he's decided to marry you. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about 3 years. Sit down in your parents' house. 3 years, you're by yourself, he's by himself. And 3 years, he is earning his way. He is re-educating himself. I'm going east or west here. How come I don't know where I am right now? West. He's educating himself to know whether or not that woman is for him, and whether she is for her. He is for her. And no, you're not having children in the meantime. You're not doing that. You are taking the time to say, this is a woman that I'm supposed to be with. Now, when you got all that, you put all that together, you realize that the Western men are really, we don't have the structure around us to keep us accountable to proper manhood. we're trying to make these guys, first of all, we're trying to make men too oversensitive. We're trying to create these oversensitive Negroes. That's what I call us, oversensitive Negroes. We're trying to be, women are trying to condition men to act like women. And that's, for me, that's a problem. Because you cannot have an oversensitive man running around trying to be a proper man to you. Let me explain why. Let's go back into the scenarios where the hunter-gatherer stage. I'm gonna check your comments in a minute. I got bad eyes. I can't see everything. The hunter-gatherer stage. When a man went into the forest to hunt for food, this is what did not happen. Predators in the forest saw him there and began to hunt him. That didn't happen. Let me tell you why it didn't happen. Because it should, shouldn't it? Because one of you, I put you right now and I throw you into the Serengeti, you're going to last for 15 minutes. Something's going to eat you. But the hunter-gatherer, if you are a Maasai warrior and I put you in the Serengeti, you're going to last for 3 days. For the reason I'm going to say out of my mouth. The hunter-gatherer, when he stepped into the forest or into the jungle, you know what the animals saw? You know what the animals could sense? Death. They could sense death. Because he wasn't sensitive, he was dangerous. How can they sense death when the man stepped into the jungle? Because he's wearing the fur coat of your cousin. He's wearing leather from another animal. He is walking in the corpses of dead animals. He smells like death. He looks like death. You're not hunting death. You're running from death. Okay. The Maasai warrior, for those who know about the Maasai, to be a man in the Maasai, as a Maasai, you have to kill a lion with 2 sticks as a young man. You have to be a man, you have to kill a lion. So when you put a Maasai in the Serengeti and the lions see the Maasai, they run in the other direction because they smell death on that brother. And that's the problem today, is that the only death that we smell on men in Western culture is the urban mentality to want to kill each other. But that's not how it should be. We should be strong enough to be men that when we step into a space, men are like, brother, we carry ourselves with a level of poise. But also, when that warrior came home, his little daughter didn't smell death on him. His wife didn't smell death on him. His son didn't smell death on him. What they saw was provider. What they saw was protector. What they saw was strategizer. That's what they saw. And the question now for your manhood is, how are you building those aspects and skills? This is what some modern guys are thinking. It's not enough to simply just be a no man. I call you a no man. To know stuff. You've got to be a no man, you've got to be a show man, and you've got to be a God man. I'm going to start at the God man part. Look into the history of the world, right? I'm going to read some of these in a minute. Look into the history of the world, and you show me in any culture, pagan or Abrahamic culture, where men were not warrior priests. We're not godly warriors. I don't care what culture you look into. Romans were very religious. Greeks, very religious, right? Persians, Syrians, of course, the Hebrew cultures, very religious cultures. What does it mean? It means that God and warrior were interconnected. You are a warrior that had a mindset for God. We have too many atheistic men in this particular age. Men who have humanistic ideas, they believe that their idea is the head of what they should live in life. They believe that they are led by themselves. There's no higher or greater power. They are arrogant. Okay, they feel that everything that comes out of their mouth is deified, and they're running. Basically, they're blowing their own flute to their own tune. They're doing their own thing. It's incredible, and we have so many of these so-called gurus of thought that we're following. This is why Puffy is who he is, because we have now we've crowned these humanistic leaders who have no God in them whatsoever, and we've made these men the type of men that other men aspire to. And know what you call them? You call them gatekeepers. Because you say, well, in order for me to get what I want, I got to go through this guy. Whatever he tells me to do, whatever he causes me to do, I got to do. It's the whole Greek fraternity culture, where you have a bunch of men who haze a bunch of other men. In order to be with us, we got to beat you. We got to demoralize you. We got to emasculate you in order for you to be part of us. Where the heck did that come from? And we've adopted these kind of weird ritualistic cultures to create men. That's a problem. That's a massive problem. So you have a bunch of ritualistic men creating other ritualistic men, and no wonder the Western culture, in respect to how men appropriate themselves as men, is so strange. It's so crazy. We have developed even a generation where sons don't even listen to their fathers, because we've taken away the warrior aspect of the father. I can't punch this kid in his face when he's out of pocket. I can't do that no more. I gotta talk nicely to him. I gotta be sensitive to him. You know, I know he's crying, and I've got to let him cry. No. It's a different culture. And you've got these maternal cultures. Oh, babe, just leave him alone. Just give him some time. Listen, Miss Wife, I got this. I'm gonna handle him. And this is how it is. Even if you got a man like that in the house now, you say, I'm gonna handle him. I'm gonna fix him. Leave me alone. I'm gonna fix him. That little boy runs outside and he finds somebody else to coddle him. Where before, Caribbean culture, you act up down the street, Mr. Smith is going to whoop you. And by the time you get home, you've been whooped by 2 or 3 dudes who be like, hey, what are you doing? I'm going to tell your father. I'm going to whoop you first, tell your father, send him home, and then the father whoops him again. So he knows he can't get away with that. He's got a culture of men, teaching him how to be a man. We don't have that now. We don't have that now. Can I give you my last part? I got so much. I honestly got so much. I'm going to read the comments in a minute. We got too many stepdaddy Negroes right now. There's too many stepdaddies running around. Let me tell you about this. If you have a man who is actively wanting to raise his children, and because of the culture that we live in, you've come across a woman she's got children for another man, right? It's a culture now. And they're not together. He was a frog. She had a baby with a frog because the culture told her that she could have babies with frogs. She didn't have her father's guidance. There was no bride price paid for access to her. And all of a sudden, frogs are giving her children left and right, and then you show up. She's got these young kids. And she got these frogs calling her, I want to see my daughter. I want to see my son. I sign my son over to me. You're not a good mother. La 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 la. We have to resist the urge to become a surrogate father to another person's child. Because even if I want to be a good surrogate dad to this child, what I'm teaching this child is that their own father, or fatherhood in general, is optional. It's flexible. It's fluid. He can be my dad. He can be my dad. He can be my dad. Everybody can be my dad. It's a bad scenario. And now you've got to dissect that situation and say, hey, I can be your man, but I will not be this child's father, because there's an active father here. And now what I have to do now, because I've signed up for this now, I've got to walk over there and say, brother, listen, I got two things to tell you. I respect your manhood. This is your child. I am not going to try to be your child's father, nor their stepfather. They have a father. They don't need an assistant father. I am this woman's man. And that's the part two. If you cross the threshold of thinking that you're also her man, I'm going to break your situation. Talk to your child. Deal with your child. Call me. I will drop your child off. What did your child say to you? She won't. I'm going to make her pick up the phone. She will obey you. But she's not my child. And this woman here, Frog, that's not your woman no more. So now I got to do that. So I got to be her woman. But I cannot be this child's father, no stepfather, unless now this brother has shirked his responsibilities, gone his way, done his thing. Then I can say, okay, well, this is a circumstance where there is no actual father figure. But when that father figure comes back, hand the man his child. There's too many stepdaddy Negroes. And this is what stepdaddy Negroes do. They create women who believe, I can have babies with you, but then I can make him raise them. And if I don't like him, I can take my children and his children, and he will raise them. And so on, and so on, and so on. It creates a cycle of women that will not settle down and stay with the man that they've decided to risk their life for. That's what happens when you have a baby. You're risking your life to have a baby for a frog. So you will now realize, hey, you had a baby with him? You better stay with him. That's yours. He's yours. We don't want you. We don't want you. You got to stay there. But every now and then, and this is the culture we live in the West, you're going to get yourself a fantastic female who somehow had children with frogs. And you've got to say, brother, listen, if I hear you lift up your voice to this woman, it's going to be a problem. I'm trying to help you be a dad, but I'm not going to help you be a surrogate man to my girl. No, it's good. And these are the problems we put ourselves in the West. We put ourselves in these problems in the West because the culture is the culture it is. The culture, and I could say more, but I don't want to say more. The culture is the culture that it is. I would say of men in the West, do your best, do your absolute best to keep your families. Keep your families. Fight for that girl. Fight to get her back. But if you can, because she's been inundated with this modern culture, and she now wants to take your children and take her body and give it to somebody else because the culture has told her that's okay, then you got to move on and find your own way in life. And if you're one of these brothers who's picked up a woman, a recycled, a refurbished, and she's come back now and said, hey, yeah, I made some mistakes when I was young. I got 2 children for this man over here. I got a child for this man over here. And I'm trying my best to be a better version of myself. And you want to take a chance on her? 3 years. Put her in a 3-year cycle. 3 years. And let me tell you something. Don't even think about going to her daddy. I'm not contradicting myself, because if she's got a father figure in her life and she has gone through that level of trauma and this Negro is still in her life, he's a horrible man. And you're not going to have any kind of really, you're not going to have any really real discourse with him. He's not a very good man. So dealing with him, it's going to be very difficult for you. You're taking on a lot. You're taking on a lot. But sometimes that woman is worth it. Sometimes that woman is worth it. Not my ex-wives. I'm telling you right now, I'm warning you right now. Don't pick up my ex-wives. You're picking up garbage. But some of y'all out here have come through a scenario where you were just dropped. You were vulnerable as a child. You had babies too young. You didn't have proper mentorship. But now God in his infinite wisdom has got you, and he's refurbished you in that potter's wheel cycle of life. You're born again, right? And situations now, you have a history. We're not going to kill you for your history. We love you. We're not going to kill you for your history. But I ain't going to be a stepdaddy to an active father. And I'm a man enough to tell that brother when he sees me, he should see death on me, and don't talk crazy to you or to me, but we will help him facilitate his child. That's it. That's all I got to say about that. Because if I say more, I'm going to get myself in trouble. Let me see what y'all saying over here. Good morning. I got that. Men are in their soft era. Exactly. True. That's what happens. Dedication, determination, all of it. Men are in their soft era. But you know why? There's so many women that will accept us being soft. And there's nobody to make us harden up or man up. I'm a dinosaur. Men hear me. Some men like me. Some men don't. Women hear me. Some are terrified. They're like, oh my God, I hope my husband never listens to this guy. This guy is crazy. He's a dinosaur. Oh my goodness. And some say, hey, I wish more men would like him. I don't know. But we are definitely in the soft era of men. 30-year-old men living at home with their mom, never wanting to activate. And this is what it means. When you have a kid who's 30 or some odd years old and he hasn't gone and moved out, it's because he hasn't finished building his manhood yet to engage in the world, right? I felt my manhood was finished at 19, so I engaged in the world. But we're taking longer to build men. So yeah, at 30, some guys are not built yet. They're still boys. And I've got 3 sons, and all of them brothers still live at home. And some of them have kids and problems, but they haven't been able to launch out and say, I'm going to go buy a house. I'm going to go hold my own. I'm going to go do my own thing, because they've been coddled by their mothers. I can't lie. They've been coddled by their moms. Their moms are still doing their laundry at 30. So it's just what it is. It's not an insult. It's just a situation that we are living in. At 30 years old, no one could tell me I was not a fully grown man. 30 years old, geez, I'd gone through hell and back. I'd gone through a whole 10-year marriage and divorce by the time I was 30 years old. I already had 4 kids. I already lost a house. I had a full career. I was doing stuff. I was doing grown man stuff. 30 now, those kids are still at home. Those are children. A 30-year-old is a child. They're still at home. It's man and woman, girl and boy. 30 years old, still at home. It's a different era. We're in the soft man era. And I can't make my son be like me unless I have a woman, their mom, who is supporting that scenario. So my words fall on deaf ears because they can run and hide in the shelter of mommy, because nothing is going to force them to go activate their manhood. And I love my boys. They're my sons. I can't do nothing else. That's like I love my daughters, right? But when you come through broken marriages and broken relationships, the world starts raising your kids. The hard part about men is that we live in brokenness. That's okay. I'm broke. There's no such thing as a broken man. I said this yesterday. When a man gets a scar, we don't go to a plastic surgeon. What do? We get a tattoo on it, right? We give it a story. Well, how'd you get that scar? Oh, girl, it's a story. Let me tell you, I was in a fight with this dude, and we don't want to repair that. The soft man era does, but we don't do that. That's not how we're functioning. So, I don't use indicators either. That's why he was honking me. I don't use indicators. This is Del K. Brereton, and this is The Real Spiel. And I appreciate you guys listening to me. I appreciate us having the live drive. But I'm out. I got things to do. Love, peace, and hair grease. We'll talk later. All right? Your rebuttals are welcome.